Is it worth it? Should you buy one? Or is it just going to collect dust like mine is? I bought a speed editor quite a long time ago. And the reason I bought the speed editor was because it actually came with DaVinci Resolve. And DaVinci Resolve, if you don't know, I mean, you probably do if you're watching this video, but if you don't know, of course, DaVinci Resolve is a video editing software that a lot of people use. And it comes with a free version and a paid version. So the free version is fantastic. It really does work very well. The studio version, the paid version, is even better. Now, a lot of people will do perfectly fine with just the normal free version. It is surprisingly powerful, but this is not really a review of DaVinci Resolve. It's a review of the Resolve Speed Editor. But to understand why I don't really use this anymore and why I think it's not that great a purchase, we have to talk about DaVinci Resolve. The benefit of the Speed Editor is it comes with DaVinci Resolve. Let's actually just have a little look at how much DaVinci Resolve actually costs. So Australian dollar, $495. Let's have a little look at DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor. So bearing in mind, DaVinci Resolve is $495. Let's have a little look at how much the Speed Editor costs. So Video Pro, this is a site here in Australia. I'm not sponsored by Video Pro. I'm just picking it as the first one there. And I know I've used them before. They're a good place. In stock, whatever, fine. Okay, 573 Australian dollars. So that's how much the Speed Editor costs in Australia. Bearing in mind, DaVinci Resolve was $495. So it's about $80 more for the Speed Editor. But you also get included DaVinci Resolve, as you can see on the screen here. So for $80 difference, you might be thinking, why would I not get the Speed Editor? Because it's going to help me with my workflow. The thing is, that's what I thought. And yet, I almost never use the Speed Editor. The whole point of the Speed Editor is, it's in the name. Speed Editor. It's meant to speed up your editing. Now, for some people, it might do. Obviously, look, it's got the jog wheel here, which is very useful. All sorts of buttons, of course. I'm not going to go through all this. It's not an in-depth review of the Speed Editor. People like Tom Buck and people like that, I'm sure, can talk to you about these things. They're much more knowledgeable about this as well. Basically, 90% of the Speed Editor, I don't use. Probably 99% I don't use. I basically use the jog wheel, and I use split, and I use ripple delete. That's it. The only other button I ever use is escape, pressing twice to undo, when I've inevitably deleted the wrong thing. And this brings me to my first problem. When you want to delete just a chunk, a section, you have to cut, and then you have to cut, and then you have to delete the bit you want to remove. It's pretty straightforward. On this, you do split, and then split, go back with a jog wheel to the section you want to delete, and then press ripple delete. Now, there may be other ways to do this. By all means, let me know in the comments. I'm probably doing it totally wrong, and I'm an idiot, and that's why I can't get it to work very well. If that's the case, look, please let me know. I'd like to use it, but it just doesn't work that well for me. The problem is, a lot of the time, the ripple delete will delete the wrong part. Even if you've gone back over the section you want to delete, it will still sometimes delete the wrong bit, which means you have to undo it and then do it again. And it's just a bit annoying. I'm actually finding it much quicker to actually just go to the section on my computer. I've got an M1 Studio Max and a Mac Studio M1 Max, and it's quicker to just scroll through, press Command B to cut, press Command B again to cut, go back and just hit backspace and delete it. Job done. I find that a lot easier than actually using the Speed Editor, because the ripple delete just seems a bit not counterintuitive, that's not the word, just a little bit unreliable. It often deletes the wrong thing, and that's just really frustrating. The next thing is the jog wheel. Now, I have mine set to jog, and there's shuttle and scroll as well. And this may change the functionality, of course. It's how quickly you kind of want it to go through things. The problem is to move and you advance the scroll wheel. On jog, it's too slow. And it's going through frame by frame, which is really useful if you want to really do that frame by frame editing. But you can also just press forwards and backwards on your keyboard and it will go by frames anyway. So you don't need it for that. The problem is if you want to do like much longer, kind of just jumping through, it's really hard to do it on this. And you could change shuttle or scroll and that will be quicker. But there's just more buttons and more things you've got to press and you're going to go back to jog and it's just a bit irritating. Basically, the long and short of it is I actually just don't use it anymore because it's actually slower for me. For my personal workflow, it's actually slower. And it literally is just gathering dust now. I don't know if you guys can see. It's actually just got dust on there. I can see the zebras on the Sony FX30 screen. It's actually picking up the dust. So you guys can probably see it. And it's basically collecting dust because it's actually slower for me to use the speed editor than it is to just use a good old keyboard and mouse. And for that reason, I don't use it. I would just think a little bit carefully about buying the speed editor because if you buy it and you think, well, you know what, reasonable thought, well, hang on, it comes with DaVinci Resolve. I'll buy the speed editor, use DaVinci Resolve, and then sell the speed editor secondhand. Makes perfect sense, of course, because you could probably sell it for a couple of $100 and basically get $200 off DaVinci Resolve, maybe more. The problem is the license is linked to the speed editor. You're not technically allowed to sell the speed editor without DaVinci Resolve. So if you on-sell it, you also have to include DaVinci Resolve. Well, that's actually how I bought mine. I actually bought mine secondhand, and it came with DaVinci Resolve, most likely for that reason. So I got a really good deal on it. It was actually cheaper than buying DaVinci Resolve as a standalone product, which I couldn't buy secondhand. All I could do was buy the speed editor secondhand, but it came with DaVinci Resolve. But that's the point. It came with DaVinci Resolve. You can't really, or you're not meant to, sell them separately. And if basically you sell the DaVinci Resolve speed editor and then someone complains to Blackmagic, they're probably going to invalidate your key and basically give it to them. I've heard people mentioning this, that this is a thing that happens from Blackmagic, so it may well happen to you. So if you think you're actually going to need and use all of the functionality of the speed editor, it's probably worthwhile buying. Very much. It's pretty much $80 difference if you're going to buy the studio version anyway. If you're not going to buy the studio version, and the free version is amazing for both Mac and Windows, I'm not sure it's worth it for a lot of people. If you're like me and just doing basic talking head videos, basic reviews, no massive crazy editing, no like this can do like 9-cam, like multicam work, like I'm not doing that. I've got one camera. You probably don't need it. This, sorry, I got something up my nose.